Morning, good afternoon, maybe good evening. Welcome, everyone, to the Resilient Founder webinar series. It's brought to you by the Yope Foundation and Tomb Venture Labs. Today's topic is sleep and more with Marco Kiesenfischer and Andy Loy. Thank you both for joining us today. I am your host. My name is Anna Ullman. I work at Tomb Venture Labs, Climate and Circular Economy Lab specifically. I'm also pursuing my PhD on startups, their impact, and their resilience. For those interested in what we do here at the Venture Labs, the Oak Foundation, at Accelerate Health, etc., feel free to reach out. We're here if you have any questions. We can also drop some links in the chat to the different organizations if you're interested in that. And really the only housekeeping topic we have is to really please do use that Q&A portion in Zoom in the webinar. Then we can see your questions and we can make sure to answer them. The chat, as you might have already discovered, is already open, so you can always react there as well. And I think that's really the only housekeeping. So we'd love to see what questions you have, what you would really like to know. And with the logistics behind us, I now have the honor of introducing both Marco and Andy to you. So let me give you a little bit about the both of them. Starting with Marco. Marco Kiesenfischer leads health and performance coaching at Accelerate Health. And he blends his background as a psychologist and systemic and stress management coach, as well as heart rate variability, HRV coach, and a therapist. And all of these come together to support individuals and teams towards sustainable performance. And he really believes recovery, which it includes sleep and psychological regeneration. This is really a key foundation for sustainable performance and long-term well-being. So to support this, he combines both his psychological insights with these data-driven metrics like HRV, this heart rate variability, to help people understand when they need rest, when they can perform, and really how to stay balanced over time. So today in this session, he'll share how his coaching, specifically with founders, draws on these tools, right? So how recovery, sleep, psychological awareness, how they can protect mental health and really power long-term growth personally as well as in business. So thank you, Marco, for joining us. And of
Thank
course,
you.
you're very welcome. And for Andy, of course, those who have joined before already know Andy. Andy is an entrepreneur, an impact investor, and the founder of Conox and a co-founder of Yope. Out of the Tomb ecosystem, he built one of Europe's fastest growing tech startups already by age 29 and created more than 500 million in shareholder value. On his journey, he was already recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30, as well as by the World Economic Forum for his leadership, specifically in AI and in sustainability. And as an impact investor and co-founder of Yope, he really focuses on conscious leadership and really this purpose-driven projects that create meaningful social and environmental impact. Andy, as always, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Amazing. Thank you. And I think we all can just say thank you to Anna for always organizing, always bringing us together, and also for Zoom to host that and put this topic of resilient health and purpose-driven leadership on the agenda and making all that effort. So thank you, Anna, as always. And yeah, I'm super happy to have Marco with me here on the call because I mean we said the sessions about sleep, but we said also there's more because Marco is definitely more than sleep. He is when I met him through through a friend who was working in venture capital. He said like you two must meet, and I really fall in love with him as a person, but also with the work he is doing for founders, and and this is just such a positive reinforcement of how important the topic of health and well-being and sustainable performance is nowadays. I think not only from the VC side, but also from the founder side. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to have you here. And I think we had this beautiful start around sleep and sleep quality. And it would be amazing, Marco, if you can just start maybe with sharing a little bit about your work that you're doing with founders and what are the like signs that you see when people have lack of sleep or in general lack of health. What are the main factors that you as a coach and as a guide kind of see and experience in your day-to-day work?
So thank you, first of all. Wow, I have to sort all of the thoughts because there are thousands running through my head at the moment. First of all, to accelerate a little bit information, we offer 4 months leadership and founder-specific programs to increase health, to meet founders' needs, and also to care for long-term performance. That's our main goal. And I'm the health and performance coach. I do data assessment to meet the people where they are, to assess their own goals, and then to show them techniques and methods to reach their own goals in a very short amount of time, I have to say, because on a freelance level, I give most of the people 3 to 6 months at least. Most founders had 2 months to apply all of the methods, and I was positively shocked how fast, how capable most of the founders were, because some of them changed 180%. So the heart rate variability, sleep score, nervous system capacity, or energy level sometimes doubled up in 2 months, which was crazy. Really interesting as well was that most founders came to us in an already very healthy state, but they reported from too much daytime stress, I would say. So in the data, I do 24 or 48-hour heart rate variability test. That gives me the full information, because actually the explanation of the importance of sleep is in your name, what you gave the webinar, Sleep and More. You don't just focus on the nighttime. To understand the sleep quality, you have to focus the full day, 24-hour cycle. So what I could see in the data, they had amazing sleep scores. I think 13 from 20 founders had amazing sleep scores. They woke up with high heart rate variability scores in the morning, and then the disaster began. They planned the full day full of meetings, no pause, even food while working. And then in the evening, everybody thought, okay, I'm close to burnout. And then the cycle was repeating. So that was a main pattern I was really surprised to see. And of course, you also had some individuals that were doing great performance, I would say, successful founders, but they didn't know the concept of regulation. So their sleep quality wasn't as good. We didn't have a single person with really bad sleep score, I have to mention, but it was rather edging. We also had founders with burnout experience, and these founders, they were able to shift the most. So for example, the ones that had a burnout a year ago or a couple of months ago could really change the most. That was also very interesting to see.
So
Mm,
do you when you look at that and you do you actually experience that people, or would you say people have to go through that suffering to learn? Was this
Amazing question.
because I was like looking at myself and just give you some context. I mean, I wouldn't have fit in that cohort because I was really not sleeping a lot, rather 4, 5 hours, and then on the weekends try to catch up and be always on that, but also be always like looking at my phone, stimulating, I would say, my reptilian brain and my fight flight all the time. So I think for me, that would have been very hard to understand. Why do I have to now to change? Because somehow I was still alive and it worked. And now I see I had to learn it the very hard way to go through a serious health issue, right? for everybody who wasn't joining before, and being like 2 years completely just trying to get my health together. And I'm grateful that I have no long-term damages, but this was like so close, right?
That's a wonderful question because that actually meets the problem right in the middle. It's very difficult to convince somebody who is a successful founder that he has to change something, right? Without without an imminent problem. So I would partly answer your question with yes, there has to be a price, and there's kind of a shift. So if the price for upholding your habits is higher than the positive outcome, then you're more likely to change. It's not the right analogy here, but a very extreme, and maybe people understand it better. For example, with addiction. Why are people addicted for several years? Because the positive outcome is still higher than the price. But if the price for the addiction is higher than the positive outcome, then people start to go to rehab. So I think suffering is, in many cases, a part of learning. I remember a professor who said there is no learning without pain. I'm not such a fan of this very Christian suffering way to explain things, but I really think it makes it easier because with a certain amount of pain, there might also be more levels of dopamine, and dopamine and focus is necessary for learning. So in some situations, yes, I think people need to have a reason to change, and that might be pain.
That's interesting. And then I mean, I interrupted you in the middle where you just gave that assessment. Just to say from what we experienced when we looked at all data from our cohort at Yope, where everybody has a Whoop, and for most of them, it was the first time ever they had a device, right? And I would say I'm the last person who says, just listen to your device, right? I'm the first person to say, check in how you feel before you look at any data, because ultimately, the ultimate goal is to have self-awareness on a level where you actually feel how your feeling I can pretty much predict what was my sleep score or my Whoop score. I have that more of a long-term data generation, but I don't make my mood or my feelings dependent on data. It should be the other way around, but still in that, why we still gifted the cohort a Whoop is just to have the general awareness. And we realized there were like at least 30% that were really below 5 hours of sleep. But they didn't realize that before either. They were just, because for them it was their state of normal. And I think that is also when you talk about addiction, we can be addicted of many things. It's all about how do you actually, you have your self-awareness, but sometimes it helps to have somebody independent to create and help you with that awareness, right? And I think this is the same with, it can be family, it can be our device helping you here, but ultimately it is. I think it's super important to have that external mirror that helps you to be really true to yourself, because I've gone through it, right? You suppress everything that doesn't serve you. And if somebody tells you and you're building a company, you're in the middle of the fundraising and everything goes crazy, and you're like, you need to sleep more, you need to relax more, and you're like, oh, that I don't have time for that, which is the wrong conclusion, but in that moment, that's your perception.
Exactly. Actually, the tricky part is even if you take time, it might not be easy for you to shift states. So you still think about work. Everybody knows that there is a lot to do and you genuinely enjoy your work. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. So you might take a pause of 20 minutes. You might go to sauna, or maybe even a full holiday. You might need some time to actually shift your mindset down, even if you take the time. If you don't allow yourself physically to calm down, it's also a problem because your body is actually not made to be in a constant activation mode, but neither a constant resting mode. So if there's one concept I would have to teach for the rest of my life, I think it's regulation, and in detail, the autonomic nervous system regulation. We don't have a stress problem. We have a lack of recovery or a lack of daytime recovery problem. So your body is actually capable to withstand high amounts of stress if you downregulate it afterwards. And you kind of have these, you mentioned circadian rhythm. There are also ultradian cycle rhythms. So what you have during the night, the sleep states, it looks actually a little bit like a sinus wave, continues during daytime. And these are your energy cycle rhythms. That means you have these deep work phases, for example, for 90 to 120 minutes. That's easy for your body to be in very deep focus, high performance focus. And then you need to downregulate it for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And then you can repeat all of that. So your body is able and is designed for high levels of stress. If you also downregulate it, then everything is good. So what I teach the founders first is rather a shifting method or mechanism. So how to, first of all, schedule downtime or rest time during the day, and also how to really allow yourself or your mindset to shift down. Otherwise, it's just empty time, or you're sitting around still thinking about work, senseless.
I love that. I love that. Do you think really you can repeat 120 minutes of deep work after 20 minutes of pause? How often can you go through that cycle on a daily basis?
So
From your experience.
On top days, I managed 4 of these cycles. And I managed a full week of that. But I was really exhausted after this. So I wouldn't push it, because your working day doesn't consist of just deep work phases. I had a special work. All of my HRV sensors came in. I had kind of like 100 hours of straight data assessment. So I could use that. And I did some experiments, but I would say deep work phases, realistically 2 up to 3 a day. And if you're able to plan your day accordingly, put in some meetings in between, some little pauses, also some social time, and then you're good to go. Because there was also kind of a sign of almost overstimulation if you're so tired in the afternoon or after your work that you cannot do anything at all. This is a bad sign. It shouldn't be like that. That just means you depleted your full energy for the day. And then what most people do, they just sit down and watch TV, for example. That's basically, your body is recovering a little bit, but your mind is still on, because watching TV is kind of like working for the brain. So you're still working.
That's super interesting. How would you, because I mean, I remember this was my daily state. Coming home after and just being done, right? And then there's no energy, no presence left for your partner, which also creates tension. That is even and distance. And I think, but if you look at what are the top 3, I would say for you personally, the top 3 mechanisms for helping people to have a good sleep, right?
So coming back to the sleep and more, which explains all of the effects and interactions. So your autonomous nervous system consists of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. These are basically 2 muscles you have to train. The less you train them during the day, the less they show up during the night. So even if you care for like a good sleep hygiene and rhythm and everything, the system that really brings you down and lets you recover, the parasympathetic nervous system, doesn't show up because it's an undertrained muscle. So the sleep quality starts the moment you wake up, which is crazy, because our bodies are also light driven. And maybe some of you heard from Andrew Huberman about the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's a kind of like a sensoric system in the brain that reacts to light. So the moment you get up, you activate the system by looking into daylight, into the sun. And then a timer sets. And the timer kind of makes you sleepy after a while. And the earlier the onset is, the earlier you want to go to sleep. So that's a natural reaction to it. But by ingesting a lot of caffeine, for example, you suppress that. And you might know also this after coffee crash. That's because some receptors getting blocked, and then the sleep wave builds up, and the moment the caffeine breaks down, the sleep wave hits you. So we have a lot of artificial anti-sleep habits during the day. So this is also a thing. You said top 3 things to improve sleep. I would see it from both directions. So top 3 things to take away, like to cut from your day, and top 3 things to add on. Because if you add things on and you're still doing the toxic behaviors, it kind of balances it out. Doesn't do anything. So I would not ingest caffeine after maximum 4 p.m. I stop at 2 p.m. because caffeine stays in my system for 10, 12 hours. Some people, especially the Italians, they say I can drink an espresso 10 in the evening and still sleep. That's that's a little bit of a misconception because they have the same nervous system.
Yeah.
They're just used to it. So first of all, to cut is the caffeine. I would cut, for example, no, if you don't do any rest during the day, like no mid-time break, maybe 20 minutes, that's also a very toxic behavior. And I forgot the third one. I'm gonna add it later. And the things I would add is coherence breathing. That's a very powerful tool. You can do it for 1 minute to 5 minutes. It's a special breathing pattern you can do as a preparation for work or as kind of a end for a deep work session or after work. And there's
Okay,
special
let's do it for a minute. Let's just or a minute or two. So
good
let's
idea.
just go into coherence. So everybody probably just relax, take a deep breath, and sit comfortable. And then can you
Perfect.
guide
Let's do
us,
that.
or should I?
Actually, I'm really interested in how you would do it, but of course I can do it. But
Maybe you do it, and then I can do it one at the end, the way
perfect.
I would do
Let's
it.
do it. Perfect. So first of all, let's take a comfortable position. You might want to lay down. You might want to sit down. I prefer to do it while sitting. You just log in. What really helps is you put both of your hands on the region of your heart because it's a heart focused breathing. And the full system is 5 seconds inhale through the nose and 5 seconds exhale through the mouth. And you focus also on deep inhales into the region of your belly. So we start by inhaling through the nose, 5 seconds, and exhale to the mouth through the mouth, 5 seconds. We keep going. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale 5 seconds. And exhale. Keep doing that for 10 more inhales and exhales. I'm not going to guide you now. And the last one, inhale. And exhale. Okay, I said 10, but I meant 5 because that's six sets is 1 minute. So to explain the concept about that, I mentioned the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. These are your main modes, activation and rest. And by breathing in such a pattern, you train both systems perfectly in such a way that the systems are in balance. And that brings you to a very, very special mode, and that's a high performance mode or flow state. It's neither stress nor relaxation. It's something in between that sets you in the right mode to work perfectly because your nervous system, your heart, and your brain is in synchronization through breathing. Another way to actively support that is are your emotions actually. So it is an anti-stress mode. If you are stressed and you do it, you might need a little bit longer to reach the flow state. But if you reach it, your body is actually not able to have stress. It's an anti-stress mode, and that makes it perfect, creates a perfect situation to make the best decisions because you're not blocked by stress. And that is really interesting because I measured, of course, people doing that breath work, and in these situations, the energy system flares up. So I have one graph in my lab reports that shows how much energy people create or spend. And in these coherence states, people activated a lot of energy. It was kind of a power surge. And you can use that energy, for example, for another 120 minutes deep work phase.
Thank you. I love to see how the different techniques, the different way how people do it. For me, it's also like one of the most powerful ways of using breath. I always call it presence breath because I feel like every time afterwards, I feel so much more present and for sure relaxed, right? And yeah, so I think these are the small tools we're looking for, and I think also one thing I actually you just inspired me by doing this. I will have in one company now doing a team challenge. So what I want to do is doing it again. I had it back at the Yoga Foundation always at the beginning of every meeting, this moment of mindfulness where we
Amazing.
tried out different tools like maximum 5 minutes, but now we'll do with another team. You just inspired me to do this like 3 times a day where everybody blocks themselves a thing and needs to report back on Slack. So if somebody from
Amazing.
that team listens, congratulations, you will get 30 days of presence breath challenge. Now, it is because it is such a beautiful tool. And I'm so curious. And I think what I love with your work, Marco, is really that there's often when you try to figure out something to help you with your stress, right? There's people that this is the one tool, this is the one tool. And I think the reality is there are different tools for different humans because we're all in a way different. But your way of working with the data of that individual and then showing him or her with the data that this is how it works and this is what your individual body does. I think that's super, super, super powerful. And it is so interesting because on my healing journey, when I had my sinus node normally and tried to get my state of health in so that I one day will celebrate my 40th birthday instead of not doing it, I actually built a whole spreadsheet on sleep, on physical health, on mental health, and then I rated subjectively on how I would feel and then how I would feel after doing certain practices from yoga, from nature walk, from just breathing, from spending time with different human beings, right? And so I think this is kind of it's what you're doing is basically putting it together and making it measurable. And this means also for us as humans that our mind can accept it. And so in maybe one or when you think about, so one thing is we talked about sleep a little bit, and we can for sure dive deeper into the there's different phases of sleep. I don't know, maybe you want to tell a little bit about how usually a sleep cycle looks like for humans that haven't read Why We Sleep.
I can do that. So there are like 3 to 4 different cycles. You have light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. And the light sleep is mostly the majority of the night, and REM and deep sleep phases are the phases where your body and mind actively recover the most. REM means rapid eye movement, and if you've seen a person in this state, you actually see with closed eyes they move their with closed lids they move their eyes from the left to the right, and this is the dreaming phase.
Mm.
So to say that even with good methodology, with a lot of knowledge about these sleep cycles, it is not really, or people are still not there yet to really measure these phases. So Aura and Whoop, they give a little bit of a estimation, I would say, based on heart rate and heart rate variability. So if the heart rate is very low, they expect that you're in a deep sleep or REM sleep, for example. But it's very hard to actively assess these phases, even if in a sleep labor. So it's just kind of to give us a baseline.
Mm.
But if Aura tells you that you didn't have any deep sleep or REM sleep, it's an estimation. So don't be disencouraged. That said, I would actually like to comment what you just said, that you had a spreadsheet. This is amazing, because what I experienced that most people, they are a little bit unsure what to do, and they don't even want to try out because they don't know if it works. But a very interesting fact is the body and the mind, so your whole system rewards effort. So just by sitting down and doing things, you activate a dopamine cycle. So by just finding out what works for you, you already put in the work. So be brave, just try out, because that's already the first step.
Mm. And I think also on that end, when you're and this is it's great what you said, because sometimes you feel like you wake up, you're amazing, and then you probably have some of those data. And if you don't have one of the devices, I'm the last to say you need to have one, right? It's more of like maybe a journal where you basically put down, hey, this is how when I went to bed, this is how I felt when I woke up, or any kind of tool that helps you with that. I think because the more you create that awareness, the easier you see the patterns that are kind of not healthy, right? So just and then
Exactly.
you can experiment, right? You watch a series, and I can tell you from my experience, um, if you watch something before you go to sleep or you don't watch, it has an influence. Even what you watch, if you go on Instagram and you think, yeah, this is just my relaxation, I can pretty much predict you that you're just overloading your frontal cortex with images, and you will forget a lot of things that you might want to remember, but you have those images that you might remember.
Exactly.
So it's just that being aware of your behavior. And I think also when what Marco, what you did inside of that, okay, you have 120 minutes or 90 to 120 minutes of deep work on where you can focus, and then you need a break. So, but a break is not that a break is you go outside, you move your body, you do something. But if you in parallel scroll over LinkedIn or Instagram or something, that's not recovery. That's the opposite, actually. And I think this is more of really becoming consciously aware of when do I escape because then you want to escape from work, but where you're escaping towards is uh, even less recovered state. It's a more and even on your WhatsApp and it's now we get those beautiful messages, but just kind of keeping a little bit of distance and really focusing on just your body and on calming and recovery. And I think this is something it's super hard to do it, but I can just everybody to do a small experiment. I mean, we're still in January, so everybody has this New Year resolutions that you can revive them if they have already fallen apart, and just say, hey, this is what you want to do for yourself, right? Because it's not because. And it's not, I think that's what you said also in the beginning. It's not an investment in something else. It's a true, pure investment in your own performance and in your work. Because if you're
Definitely.
more present, guess what? You will do the work that you sometimes need 4 hours and 2 hours. That's just
Mhm.
what we're capable of.
Exactly. And to add on, so we talked a lot about breath work already. The respiratory system, so how you breathe, is a built-in regulation tool. You can use it to activate yourself or to rest. The second built-in system is the visual system. So you can use focus or defocus for regulation. If you just scroll Instagram, for example, that's a focus mode, that's an activation mode. And by going outside, you kind of activate your panoramic vision. That's also a reason why you get sleepy in the evening while reading, because your visual system or your eyes go from left to right. That calms you down. So it's really important to know that breath or like your breathing rhythm plus how you focus or defocus activates or rests your nervous system. And one thing that's the biggest predictor of a good night of sleep is your heart rate in the evening. First of all, I
Mm.
mentioned we have a light-driven system. So blue light in the evening that comes from screens, for example, will still activate you. It also suppresses the melatonin, the sleep hormone production. Plus, if your heart rate is still elevated in the night, you need a lot of time. And I also saw that in the data of some founders who didn't have a calm down or a nighttime strategy, the first 2 hours of sleep, they were actually sleeping, were not regenerating. So I saw it in the energy visualization. The first 2 hours of sleep were energy holes. Nothing happened. They were laying down. They thought they're resting, but that reduced the regenerative time of the night about a third, 30%. So you take away nighttime if you don't lower your heart rate before sleeping. That's why it's so important to have these shifting rituals.
Mhm. And I think also, I mean, everybody in high performance sports, everybody in that I have done kind of trainings with, that is former military or like special
Mhm.
forces. I mean, even a shower can be that, right? If you go and do a warm shower before you go to bed, it's just, and you just calm down and say, like, just thinking about now I'm releasing all that non-pleasant and like everything that doesn't serve you, right, for your sleep. And I imagine, especially when you're in war zones and stuff, you see a lot of very like traumatic, unpleasant things. And the way they keep themselves mentally clean and calm down because they have to sleep, because they have to perform the next day, your is some ritual, and this ritual, as you said, can be breathing, can be a shower, can be whatever feels, it can be reading. And for a long time, actually, for me, reading, I've always just finished one page and then I fell asleep. So I was like, became like my evening reads became this book. Like I have one book, it's called Notes on Complexity. Uh,
For 2 years, yeah.
yeah, it's just doesn't it's not finished yet, but it helps me a lot. It's a tool. Um,
So 1% each day, yeah.
yeah, and so no, I love that conversation. Um, maybe because given the time where we're already in, and I see there's already some questions, and I like the way we take with the flow. We can maybe I can just go through them a little bit. And so one is which was said is like there was Moritz who was asking, hey, so an alarm detecting light sleep phases to wake up in the morning is not necessarily functioning. What's your opinion on that, Marco?
Could be because I think the devices are heart rate focused. So it detects your heart rate. It knows, well, it has to know your baseline. If your baseline is 60 beats per minute during daytime, and then your sleeping baseline is 50, it kind of sees, okay, you're more to 60, you can wake up easily. So that prevents of being waken up in a deeper sleep, I would say. So they can work.
But would you like from your own experience, do you have an alarm, Marco?
I sometimes use it, but I know when I wake up.
Okay.
So for me, a good time is between 7 and 7:30, depending on how I go to bed, and that's a very good time for me. And I shifted my rhythm completely when I was 28, because till I was 28, I went to bed at 1 or 2 in the night. It felt normal for me, and I still was in a good performance state during the day, but it shifted. So it's also a thing of, yeah, how old you are. Let's say like that.
It's like, and you're still very young. No, I personally stopped using an alarm, 4.5, 5 years ago, 5 years ago.
Amazing.
And so the only like maybe 2 times a year when there's a specific flight or something, I use an alarm, but besides it, I don't. Because I think ultimately it always kind of like shakes me, and it you and so far I feel like with an alarm and without an alarm, there's such a big difference in how I perceive like my day. It's
Well, you
very
wake up with stress. Yeah.
yeah, I wake up with stress, whereas I don't wake up with stress, and I think this is kind of a big
Mm.
thing for me. And people always say, "Yeah, but I can't do this," and my common answer to that would be just go 1 hour earlier to bed until it works, right? And and it will work. I mean, I experimented that a lot, and there's another question from Lars that is there an additional value add like an Aura or Whoop compared to Apple Watch?
I would say yes. If you have the money, if you're willing to invest it, do it. So like I personally like to compare my Aura and my Whoop data, but I have many more sensors, and I know I put all of the data together and I'm somewhere in the middle. But I would like no tracker does the work for you. If you're not able to do your own assessment, for example, sleep quality in the morning, then a tracker might even make it a little bit worse for you because you rely too much on the qualitative um, input than just a biofeedback. So it gives you numbers in relation to your baseline, which is a great sign, but you always have to add the context and your own assessment. Otherwise,
Mm.
it's kind of gambling. So yeah, Aura has um, a different idea than an Apple Watch or Whoop. Whoop is more for performance. Aura is more for sleep and recovery, I would say. The data itself, heart rate variability, is similar. So I get similar scores each day.
Mm. So it is, and so I think the bottom line is invest your own time
Mhm.
um, to have more energy. That means like and really taking time to dissolve that number, that sometimes also number complexity or is something that at least for me helps a lot. And I said for me there's nothing better than the indication on how do I feel, and if I feel bad I do a small breathwork or meditation, like my tools, right? And then I feel like, what do I feel now? Because I like I would say generally my life also feels very energetic and beautiful, but it doesn't mean that I wake up every day and feel that it's amazing. It's more of a something that I feel that I am, to a certain extent, responsible for managing my state on how do I want to feel and how do I want to show up to that to each day. Yeah, and
Exactly.
then there's one more question. Could you talk a little bit more about heart rate variability,
Mhm.
example, high-level indicators on what's good or bad? Before we hand over to wonderful Anna.
So this is peer group dependent. So I take the group between 30 and 40 years. You have a statistical median. That means a standard value is 35 milliseconds, plus minus 11. That's the range that's normal for 30 to 40-year-olds. It declines with age. So if you have 20 to 30-year-olds, it might be 5 milliseconds more. So it's probably 40 plus minus 11. And that's a normal range, I would say. The optimal range is around 50 milliseconds per hour. It's also very, very different between people. I found out that people born in winter have a higher heart rate variability. Um, Athletes have higher heart rate variability, and happy people. So you might want to aim for roughly plus 50 milliseconds. And then it's not such a difference. So I vary between 65 and 50. It's both in the optimal range. You want to go in that direction. But really, sorry, bad is below 20 in a certain context. So I always compare heart-brain coherence value plus heart rate variability. That's the full picture. So you might have a lower heart rate variability due to some reasons, but if you still have a high heart-brain coherence value, it's a good indicator. If both are low, that means your nervous system capacity is suppressed by work style, lifestyle, or sickness.
Hmm.
I hope I answered the question.
At least for me, that's and it's super interesting because you just made me check again. And yeah, I mean, last week 73, over the last months 74 on average, and 6 months 74. So it always goes depending on training and movement and stuff. But I think for me, my biggest kind of coming to a closure also, it was like adapting sleep and sleep consistency and making kind of the half an hour before I go to sleep also part of like building my own sleep kind of ritual that works for me.
Amazing.
And that's and so far works quite well.
I actually would love to ask both of you because you both hinted at it throughout the session about the importance of your routines in the morning and the evening. But I would love to know if you'd be willing to share what your full routines are. What is it that really has worked for you, or maybe you've seen working for others?
Amazing. So, first of all, I love my routines. I made my healthy habits really fun for me. But I try to teach myself do not rely on it. So I have days I do nothing and I enjoy it. And then I have days that are completely, let's say it like optimized. I wake up, I have a ice bath system on my balcony. I do that in the morning. That gives me energy all day. If I have time, I go to gym. After that, I do red light and infrared sauna. I also have a cabin at home. And then the day is perfect. And then I start working. And that takes maybe 1.5 hours. I do a
Okay.
lot of coherence breath work during the day, depending on how I feel. Every time I have the feeling, okay, I'm a little bit restless or I need something to feel good, I know this is the time to do coherence breathing because then I'm not centered. And in the evening, as I said, I love to read. I use apps like Pliability. That's kind of a um, mobility and stretching app. And I need 15 minutes of stretching and I'm ready to sleep. sometimes I fall asleep on my on my mat.
That is beautiful. I think I have a more I love what you said is that you're not being too addicted about your routine. But for me it was like a routine from the beginning. I saw it like a to-do list, and then but I had to do it for 30, 60 days, and now it's like it's more of to want, and now in my calendar, if you look at it, there's like 2 hours in the morning that are really blocked to just center and do everything that I really want to do for myself. And then and then I'm happy. And then I come to my first call, and then I did everything. And so my thing is actually I even journal that by hand. It's more it's tea and journaling, so I wake up, make my tea, journal. Usually I have a little bit of frequency music that I have always the same frequency for 1 week. That's more of my own thing. That runs. I Now I have natural daylight. Otherwise, there's those small red light devices that I'm currently testing. I don't know if they will become part of my core routine, but I always try some stuff out. And then uh, I have I do a little bit of breath work, and then I do either strength workout or yoga, dependent on the day or the place where I'm at, and then. Yeah, and then I shower, and I do a cold shower as I don't have a cold plunge. When I'm in a place where there is one, I use it. But otherwise, the cold shower is enough for me, and then I'm ready for the day. And then and then it's really about now I have this. I'm trying out the system where I really have kind of managing my calendar with those blockers. For example, if I look at after this meeting, I have a blocker where I'm just going to have lunch and I don't do anything else while that, right? It's kind of holy, and then some time in between meetings that I'm not using for work, but I'm really using to recenter. And that can be going outside, it can be breath. And then in the evening, it is also depending where I'm either reading, I'm spending time with I have this blocker in my calendar where it's like spending present time with my wonderful wife, and then we just do something like a cup, whatever feels good for us. We eat together, we cuddle or whatever it is on that specific day, and then I have my evening shower. If I am in a place where I have a sauna, I love to use sauna like 2, 3 hours before I go to sleep. Then I sleep really like a baby. That's like, and then I have my book that I start reading. Somehow, maybe it will be my lifelong infinite book. That one, I tell it. It has nothing against the author. I love him now because he's like, but I start reading it and then I fall asleep. And yeah, I personally use because I was traveling so much and back at the time, and also I am sometimes in different environments. I have a sleeping mask and I have earplugs that I put in, and my wife has the same, and that's just feels very, very good because somehow my body thinks it's always in the same environment. And even if you're somewhere where the sun rises at 5:30, my body still keeps in one rhythm, which I love.
Definitely. And I just realized if there's time, we were talking about heart-brain coherence all the time, and I didn't even mention the sensor. It's unpaid marketing now, but I use the sensor of HeartMath. And it's for the people who really want to see how the breath work really works on themselves. It gives you kind of like an indication of if it's successful what you're doing at the moment. It's a biofeedback sensor. It's from HeartMath, and it's the inner balance sensor. You plug it, you have an app, and it shows you the breathing pattern, and it shows you a score, like a coherence score. Because there's no other sensor that's capable of showing you the coherence sensor score. Sorry.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you both. We're almost out of time. So a really sincere thank you for sharing your insights, all the tips and tricks, making sure that we know not just to focus on those nighttime hours, but it's really about the full routine, the morning, the midday, the evening, making sure you're checking in with yourself throughout the day, all the different tips. I have a whole list of different tips I can take with me, and I'm sure everyone does now as well. So thank you both for taking the time and sharing this valuable information
It
with
was a pleasure.
with
Thank
all
you.
of us. Yeah.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Maybe quickly, we still have a minute. We already set up the next Resilient Founders webinar. This time, it's all about the mind specifically, even leading into neuro-linguistic programming. So this type of communication, working with language and mental patterns. Same time, same place in a month. So it will be on February 24th. The link is already in the chat. So if you want to register for it and get all the reminders for it, we would absolutely love to have you there. So from my end, thank you again so much. And
Yeah,
we're looking forward to seeing you next time. Go ahead.
thank you, Anna, and also thank you, Marco. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And also, I mean, you can find Marco online. He works individually with founders. And I just gifted one of my mentors, actually, who is also a global, I would say more of a global leader in of being the chairman of different boards and really interested in health. And he is going to receive one book. And also, I just made the note there will be more gifts for some unicorn founders in my that are friends of mine that I want to introduce Michael to. And so, if you want to gift yourself something, contact him and maybe find some time. And really amazing for what you're doing, and also that you how your own journey you transformed it basically from the physical to the holistic kind of performance. So thank you, Marco. A lot of wisdom, and I wish you all a very beautiful day. See you next time with Johanna. She's always inspiring for me. So this is why I convinced her to come, and an amazing being, amazing leader, and also a mother of three. And yeah, see you next time. Lots of love from my side, and have a beautiful day.